coral trout that we've segmented. We've got gorgeous fillets, and we're going to pan fry these in some macadamia oil so they're nice and crispy, and serve it with a kind of modern Asian inspired dressing. You're going to love this. I'm teaching you coral trout because it's the most popular recipe, or the most searched for, on my website, chefsamgowing.com, which, mind you, I have been editing over 350 of those recipes day by day. So you're going to love this. Let me put this to the side. I've got this gorgeous Solid Techniques pan, Australian Oz iron pan on the go. I'll crank up the temperature a little bit. While that's heating up, I've chosen these two larger fillets. There's plenty of fish, obviously. This is much larger than the portion you get in a restaurant. Let me tell you that. We want to season that. I'm going to rub it with a little bit of macadamia oil. You can use a piece of paper towel, or I can just use these tongs that I was born with. Clean that up with my other paw. A little pinch of beautiful salt, Olsen salt, and just a crack of white or black pepper. You can learn all about the different kinds of pepper on my website, chefsamgowing.com. Thank you very much. So it's nice and seasoned. Make sure there's a good covering of that oil, and then some obviously for the pan. Now you want the pan nice and hot, but obviously you don't want to burn the oil. Local macadamia oil around 210 degrees Celsius is their smoke point. It's smoke point. So I like to find the breadth of the wok, or the breadth of the pan. This is a very broad, flat-based Oz iron pan from Solid Techniques. And once I've got a little bit of temperature going on, I can just very carefully layer that down. Now you want to make sure there's enough oil under that skin. And it's going to cook quite quickly. A couple of minutes either side, max. Give it a little bit of a shimmy. And then I've got a little flipper, also by Solid Techniques. They very kindly gave me a bunch of this great gear some time ago. So I just want to make sure there's oil underneath there, which there is, so it's not going to stick. And then using the fish weight from St. Peter. Now with this, I want to just make sure there's a little bit of macadamia oil. You can just rub, or you can pre-season that. And you can see using that fish weight, it just naturally presses that down. So you're going to get crispy skin all the time. And people always tell me in cooking classes that cooking fish is their biggest nightmare, or where they need the most help. So this is one way to get that crispy skin. You don't have to use the fish weight. You will find them online. I'll put the link in this below. It's just a really handy gadget. It doesn't heat up, and of course this long handle pan won't heat up as well. So you're always guaranteed safety first. A few minutes here if you wanted to. I just want to give you a little check, more for you than me, and making sure that it's not too hot. Obviously I'm using an open flame here, which can get quite hot quite quickly. And then just to check it out again, pop that up to the side, and just again making sure that you've got a no stick. So where possible, use gorgeous cookware like this. Try and avoid using non-stick cookware. If you know how to cook fish properly, then it'll be your friend for life. And it's starting to smoke, so that's my cue. Pop that to the side. Flip it over. Look at that, glamour. And then just letting that settle down on a nice moderate heat. Now I could put the fish weight on it again, but I don't want to ruin the texture of that crispy skin. There's only a little strip of that, but absolutely gorgeous. Of course you can just grab a spoon and just ladle a little bit of residual oil over the top. Be really careful if you're working with an open flame doing this, that you don't ignite the oil. And just give it another drizzle. You could re-season it if you wanted to, so I might just give it a little bit more salt, just a tiny little bit from up high. My students this week in cooking classes are all mimicking the classic chef vibe, you don't have to do that. From here, if you've got enough room in the pan like I do, you can just pop that out to the sides. And just because we're doing this for the camera, I've got some fresh bok choy here, and we can just pop that in there to wilt that and just get a little bit of colour on that. We're going to make a beautiful ginger, garlic and tamari and a toasted sesame dressing to go over the top, or maybe along the side. Again, we want to preserve the integrity of that crispy skin. And the trick with fish, obviously, is don't crowd the pan. It's okay now because we've done the searing. Don't put too much fish in the pan. Make sure the fish is at room temperature. That's probably my biggest tip. And you can always pat dry with a kitchen cloth or some paper towels as you need to. Now again, just with that macadamia oil, omega-7 comes from heaven. And of course there's a rich bounty of omega-3 in reef trout, our coral trout, that's come from the Great Barrier Reef here in Australia. Now, that fish is going to continue to cook with a little bit of latent heat, so I can carefully pop that onto this serving plate. These plates are from the 1980s from Gowing's restaurant East Melbourne, if you can believe that. And I've hung on to them for that long. And then you can just pop the fish to the side and just wilt the bok choy. You want a little bit of colour on it. You do certainly need a little bit of flavour. And just while that's doing its thing, I've got a piece of lemongrass here. I'm just squeezing it with the back of my knife, and then I'm going to tie it in a knot, as such. And this will release the essential oils, and you can just throw that in with the bok choy. Just set the pan, and we're going to throw that into our saucepan with our dressing as well, just because I had that gorgeous piece of lemongrass kicking around. See that lovely colour on the bok choy there? I'll cut the bok choy into quarters. And with a heavy base saucepan, this is a lovely French copper pan. Just warm that up gently. And then we're going to fry off some spring onions. And I'll just cut those spring onions on the diagonal so there's a greater surface area. I believe the greater the surface area, the more flavour the dish will absorb. The pan, being a copper pan, it takes a little while to warm up, but I don't want to put it at full throttle because I like to preserve my cookware. So that knot of lemongrass, that can go in. A little bit of residual macadamia oil. Just cook that off. This is toasted sesame oil, a beautiful finishing oil, but perfect for this kind of dressing. I've got some Japanese Mirin. Of course, you could just use Chinese rice wine, but I love Mirin. I teach a lot of Japanese classes, so there's always Mirin in our kitchen. And I've got some Japanese Tamari. Again, you can use a heavier Chinese soy. I prefer the gluten-free Japanese Tamari. It has a very gentle flavour, and I like to use it in a bounty of my cooking. Ginger, some ginger shards here. Julienne ginger. And a little bit of minced garlic. And for the chilli lovers, like my darling husband, just a few shards of chilli. Sometimes we've got chilli in the garden. I'll just rip that up, pop that through. Very, very rustic. All you want to do really is to release the garlic and ginger aromatics. We're going to discard that piece of lemongrass we've been working with. And then with that piece of lemongrass, I always tie it in a knot like that, and it's great for imparting that lemongrass flavour. Certainly into coconut rice, cooked rice, any curry, and you can just lift it out easy. I might just do the right thing and ladle that with a spoon. So I'll start with some of that flavour over the bok choy because that will warm it up. And just around the fish, I don't really want to get too much on the actual fish skin, because I want that skin to have some texture. You can just gently pop the rest out. And some very healthy sprouts that we've sprouted as well. So we're just going to amplify the bok choy side of things. But the lovely salty flavour, of course, from that tamari coming through, the Olsen's salt that I've used. And just because I had them on hand, and they're very good for you, some pomegranate arrows. So very, very high in vitamin C, beautiful, sour, slightly sweet flavour. Most importantly, we're just going to use these here for the crunch. So it's a modern Australian dish. It doesn't have any genesis necessarily, maybe inspired by some Cantonese cooking that I've had, but I've hot rodded it, which is my technical term for switching things up, for ingredients that I've got in my kitchen as well, trying to be as sustainable as possible. And just to finish off, we'll just pop a couple of cheeks of fresh lime. There's one in the front there, and just a pocket there as well. So there you have it, fresh, gorgeous, beautiful Great Barrier Reef coral trout. The whole fish came from Tasman Star, which is a local seafood wonderland for us. That's on the Gold Coast here in Australia. Beautiful fish. I know my hubby is salivating over this. We're having it for Saturday lunch. Whatever you do, wherever you are, I hope you're very happy. Enjoy.